Well, it's all about leadership this week with a new incumbent in 10 Downing Street. But when you think of leadership from an Irish point of view, you have to think of the greatest leader of all time that came down to us. His stories come down to us through the millennia, and that, of course, is Fionn Mac Cumhaill. But Fionn was lucky to arrive on this earth intact at all. His father was cool, of course, and took a shine to Myrna, his mother. They eloped, and the mother's people weren't that happy. Cumhaill was the leader of na Fianna warriors, and because of this eloping crack, there was a battle, as always happens in ancient Ireland. All our wars are merry, and all our songs are sad. Cumhaill was killed in battle, which was an occupational hazard, and everyone thought that was that. But then it transpired that Myrna was in fact pregnant, and her family, who had disowned her, wanted rid of her permanently, and especially didn't countenance the thought of an offspring of Cumhaill running around the place. However, the High King was a bit of a feminist. He offered protection, and the child was born in secret, a healthy baby boy. Myrna then decided that she had enough of this epic tale and she exited stage left, but she left the child in the care of druids, no better people to rear a warrior. And he turned out to be a fine, strapping young lad. Now, Fionn wasn't his given name, he was Demna, but he developed a shock of blonde, almost white hair, and was very distinctive. And he got the nickname Fionn then, because Fionn is the Irish for fair. And that stuck to him throughout his life and to this day, a couple of thousand years later. So when he had finished what you might call preschool with the Druids, he went to various royal palaces around the land, and they were plentiful at the time. And he'd last a while there because he was very well thought of, a nice young man, young boy at the time. But once the story of the circumstances of his procreation became known, the courtiers felt it advisable to just send him on his way because he was maybe drawing a bit of unwanted attention to them. And so it was during one period of homelessness that he came across the poet Finnegas. Now, Finnegas wasn't one bit worried about the politics of the day, or maybe not even aware of it, because he had spent 7 years searching for the salmon of all knowledge. And it was a fact that the person who caught and consumed this salmon would gain the knowledge of the world at that time. So he was very happy to take Fionn under his wing because he needed help and he needed a servant. Fionn himself thought that if Finnegas had actually studied for 7 years, he might have gained a fair bit of knowledge without chasing an elusive salmon. But out of respect for the man, the poet, he didn't express these thoughts out loud. But anyway, he must have brought luck to Finnegas because Finnegas eventually caught the salmon. And it fell to Fionn to prepare the meal for his master. He had strict instructions not to eat any of the salmon, and not even to taste it, not even a morsel. And Fionn was an honourable young man at the stage, and he had no problem agreeing to this. The fact that he had 3 trout for his own dinner meant that he wasn't that hungry anyway. But Fionn was destined to be a better warrior than he was a cook, and he burnt his thumb in the process of preparing the salmon. And in time-honoured fashion, he put his thumb to his mouth to cool it down. But anyway, he went on, prepared the salmon, and presented it to Finnegas on an iron plate, it being the Iron Age. Finnegas noticed something about the body language of the young man, and he noticed something in his eyes. He knew there was a change, but the salmon was intact. So he asked him to given an account of how he prepared the salmon. And Fionn's account would put a video analyst today to shame because it was very detailed, and of course included the bit about burning his thumb. So it dawned on Finnegas that it was Fionn who had gained the knowledge of the ancient world, because unwittingly, through the burning of his thumb and putting it to his mouth. So he bade his erstwhile servant eat the rest of the salmon, because he and he wasn't that sorry to see that it was Fionn who had actually gained the knowledge. He felt no better man could get it. So Fionn ate the salmon, and obviously had to have a nap after that with all the calories he'd ingested for that day. But with the knowledge of the world and being a very athletic warrior and excellent at what he did, he at a very young age became the leader of Na Fianna, occupying a position once occupied by his own father. And he went on to serve in that position. And there are many more tales about him that have come down to us through the ages. Now, you will have noticed that the newest incumbent of 10 Downing Street has blonde, almost white hair, and it's very plentiful. But the similarities with Fionn end there, and I must make that perfectly clear.